Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations with DSLN. Today, we are delighted to host Ms. Anmol Jolly, an internationally trained legal and corporate compliance professional whose journey bridges Indian corporate law, company secretarial practice, and global business law education. Ms. Jolly began her academic journey with a Bachelor of Commerce, followed by an LL.B. from the University of Mumbai, a PG diploma in IPR, and successfully qualified as a company secretary from the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. Her professional experience includes working with organizations such as Compuage Infocom Limited and Ogilvy and Mather Pvt Limited, where she handled corporate governance, securities compliances, board processes, M&A-related documentation, stock exchange compliances, and complex commercial agreements. Recently, she has graduated and completed her LL.M in business law from University of California, Berkeley School of Law, one of the world's most prestigious law schools, where her coursework includes securities regulation, mergers and acquisitions, venture funds, startups, and complex transactions. She is also preparing for the California bar examination, placing her among a growing group of Indian lawyers exploring international legal qualification and global legal careers. Her journey from Indian corporate practice to Berkeley Law and the US Bar offers valuable insights for law students and young professionals aspiring to study and work abroad. We are honored to have you with us today, ma'am.
Thank you so much for such a lovely introduction, Ritu. I'm really happy to be here and happy to answer all the questions that you have.
Wonderful. So, to begin with, uh, may I ask, you qualified as a CS company secretary while pursuing law? How did the CS qualification, complement your legal career, and would you recommend it to students interested in corporate law?
So it was actually the other way around for me. While I completed my Bachelor's of Commerce, I passed in all the exams of the CS course as well. It has three levels. Back in my time, it had three levels. So, and immediately after my BCom and my CS exams, I started doing the management training that is required as per the CS course. So when I say I qualified as a CS and the later years, that meant that I was doing my training in between. I was doing all the other induction training programs that are a part of ICSI. So even when I had completed my training, I started working as an assistant company secretary. And while I was doing all of this, I decided that I think the first year I was working as a CS, I started realizing the importance of having a law degree. Because if as a company secretary, it builds your foundation in corporate laws and governance and securities and M&A and even in business laws. But when you work in an actual office setup and you see transactions happening around you, you realize that corporate laws is not just like the only thing that you need to understand the business model to enhance the foundation that you have in just working in the compliance or the corporate department. You need to know what the legal team does. I was so curious on what the legal teams are doing, like what are all these stacks of papers that they have on their desk. So
Mhm.
I decided that I want to go for like a bachelor's of law as well. And for people who are considering just doing CS or just doing law, I would recommend to both because these two degrees they complement each other in ways you can't imagine. Because just knowing the corporate side of it, but also knowing the legal side of it, it's just going
Mhm.
to broaden your understanding of all the transactions that take place around you. So I think for people who are interested to work in the corporate legal field or who want to do, even if you want to do corporate litigation, I think you need to understand what a company is, how it operates. And just if you do an LLB, I think you just have one subject in one of the years of company law. And that was just like a piece of cake for me because I had studied and worked on it like from all these years. And I just thought like, is that it? Like LLB is just giving me one subject. So I think both of these degrees they complement each other. And if you as a student, if you want to decide on having a corporate legal career, whether or non-lit or litigation, I think doing a CS course is something that is going to help you a lot. And the LLB, again, they just complement each other. They just go together so well.
Right. Your career at Ogilvy, you worked as on influencer agreements, corporate assignments, and service contracts. So, with the rise of digital marketing and content creators, how important has media and advertising law become for business today?
I think businesses today, as we all are aware, are not just relying on traditional advertising methods like billboard advertising or just like a TV ad in between serials that we used to watch when we were
Mm.
kids. I mean, with the rise in content creation and brand partnerships and agency partnership, and then these influencer marketing and advertising that's going on, I don't think there is any brand right now who is not working with influencers. And the kind of issues that I used to come across when I used to see my teammates working in on influencer agreements or copyright assignments, the kinds of issues were vast. When we think of a legal team, we think, oh, they just see the contracts, oh,
Mm.
they're just the contract people. No, it's not just contracts. You need to understand what's in those contracts because there are
Yes.
issues like usage rights, there's like IP protection. And with AI, I mean the sky is the limit. Because how are you going to protect your data? What about your privacy? I mean, an influencer, you as a lawyer would understand that, oh,
Yes.
maybe if AI is giving me something, I just need to recheck it. I hope it's not hallucinating. But that poor influencer, that person is the layman. He's not going to go, he or she is not going to know of, what do I need to recheck the authenticity of what this AI model is giving me. So
Mm.
does that responsibility fall on you as a legal team who's working with that influencer? Or you just throw it on that influencer and be like, don't do that. How are you going to
Mm.
trust that? How are you going to protect your brand from any kind of privacy issues that's going to come later? So I think media and advertising laws, they are really, really important now, not just for companies, for anybody. Like even a small shopkeeper might want to, advertise about his shop.
Mm.
That guy might go and use AI to build an ad. What if that ad that AI gives that person an ad that is based on some other reputed brand's information?
Yes.
That brand is going to come after the shopkeeper. What is he going to do in that situation? So I think there has to be a lot of awareness of media advertising at the same time of data privacy laws as well.
Right. You received two accelerated promotions within a span of 2 years. What do you think helped you stand out professionally at such an early stage in your career?
I think the two things that I was always very specific about was taking responsibility and being accountable for what I'm doing. I think the third thing was I just used to dive head first in whatever was thrown at me. There were times where I was given a specific task to do, a specific project to do, and I just had no idea at all on how to do it, what to do it. And then my seniors, they used to ask me, Anmol, can you do it? I was like, oh, yes, I can do it. And I knew they knew that I don't know how to do it,
Mm.
but they just relied on me, and I'm so glad. I think I owe it to all the seniors, all the people that I've worked for because they believed in me when they knew that I myself don't really believe in me. Because I'm saying over here because I just used to be so confident in just saying yes to things. I think the moment you start saying no, I think that's where you start
Mm.
restricting your growth. If you really want to grow, and I think one of the things that my father told me, like even he's working in a company, he's working in marketing and sales. So I used to see him right from my childhood work so hard. Like usually we wake up, we check our phones and we see Instagram, WhatsApp. But even today, I see him, the first thing he checks is his email. The first thing he does before
Mm.
going to sleep, he checks his email. And I just somehow I inculcated that in myself. So even as like a 21-year-old who's just started working, the first thing I used to check is my emails and I used to reply to people. And I
Mm.
think that showed that I really care for the work I'm doing, that I'm taking responsibility. I could have
Yes.
simply just logged in at 10 a.m. or at 10:30, taken my coffee break, and then checked my emails like a usual, laid back setup. But I didn't do that. Even before I got up from bed, I checked my emails. It's not a healthy thing. I don't recommend it because you get addicted to it, but I think it shows responsibility.
Oh. At what stage did you decide that you wanted to pursue an LLM abroad? And what motivated you to choose this path despite already having a strong corporate career in India?
So I think in India, I mean, so far my education goes, I was always learning about here is a company, this company is doing this, take care of that. Here is a situation, this is going that. But what happened before the company was formed? I wanted to
Mhm.
go back in time and I wanted to trace the growth of a company right from where it was just a mere idea. So I think the need for me to learn of how because how startups come into the picture, how these randomly someday you see us, it was just a startup yesterday and today it's booming in the industry. How, like what did they do? I worked in companies that are already established in their respective industries. But then
Mhm.
I also used to, dig around and talk to people. Oh, what did the founder do here? What did the MD do here? How did he begin this company? And I used to be so baffled with the answers that I used to get. Oh, he did that. This is how he built this, like such a big
Mhm.
empire. And I was so driven by learning in today's time because that those times were different. I mean, you can't expect somebody to start with that model in
Yes.
today's time and then have a nice big company. So I wanted to be time savvy. I wanted to see, I wanted to learn in the present and in the future how it's going to be. Like, if what if tomorrow I wake up? I was so motivated. I'm like, should I start a business? And I'm like, okay, no, I need to just calm down. I need to learn how things work because you get motivated, right? You listen to all
Mhm.
these really good stories of successful people, and I get really driven by that. And I think that was one of the reasons why I wanted to. I mean, I already had a bachelor's. I was already licensed. I mean, I'm licensed as a
Mhm.
company secretary in India. I'm licensed. So I was just thinking to myself, like, what else can I do? Do I want to repeat a law school of 3 years all over again? But I was like, no, I
Mhm.
mean, no more 3 years. I mean, I want to do something that's precise, something teaches me exactly what I want to do. And so I decided on the LL.M program because that was the best option that I could think of. And even today, after having completed it, I think it was the best choice for me.
Yeah, and you chose University of California, Berkeley School of Law for your LLM, which is among the world's top law schools. What specifically attracted you to Berkeley Law over universities in the UK or other common law countries?
I think I've always tried to aim high. I mean, I could have. I mean, I knew people who were doing their LLMs in London. I had friends in Germany who were doing their law over there. But they all of them had their own reasons why they were moving to specific places or doing that kind of law that they were doing. But for me, I wanted to aim high, and then I researched on all the universities, and then not just research, I even spoke to a lot of people. I randomly reached out to people on LinkedIn and I was like, would you speak to me? Would you give me 5 minutes? I want to know. And then it just happened that I spoke to a couple of people from Berkeley and the kind of experience that they had, it just inspired me to aim for universities here. And I think I thought to myself, like, if you really have to move to a place, I think I wanted it to be a nice place. So I think California is like a really good place as compared to. No offense to other places, every place is good, but I think California was something really attractive to me, like from the very beginning. So I thought, like, okay, let's try here.
And could you guide our viewers through the application process for Berkeley Law, particularly the SOP, I think references, transcripts, and any tests or requirements involved?
Yeah, so it's a long process. If you want to pursue an LLM, I think you need to start way in advance. You cannot just go on the university's website and be like, oh, this is the last date, I'll start a month prior to that. No, it doesn't work like that because there's a SOP, like you said. There are
Mm.
like letters of recommendation. You need to pass your English proficiency tests. I gave TOEFL because in some of the universities that I applied, TOEFL was a requirement. So
Okay.
I opted for instead of IELTS, I went for TOEFL. So that's one thing that you need to prepare for or you need to appear for. You just have to get done with these little things. The most important thing was the transcripts for me because it took a lot of time. Like you said, I've done BCom, I've done my
Mm.
LLB, I've done a postgrad in IP, I've done CS. So I had to avail my transcripts from four different
Yes.
places. So for people who've just done their BA LLB, like the 5-year course, I think that wouldn't be. that big of a problem. But for a person like me, it took me weeks and weeks of follow-up. I had to take leave from my workplace and go to that certain office and go to the university's office, go to my college office, and we're like, I had to beg them, like, please give it to me on time. I
Mm.
need to submit my documents on time. So transcripts are like really, it's not difficult, but it's just time consuming. So you need
Mm.
to allot a certain amount of time for that. You cannot, because this is something that's out of your hands, right? You need to rely on your college department, on your university to give those transcripts to you. The
Yeah.
application process, once you have all your documents ready, is very simple actually. Once you upload, there's a portal called LSAC. So once you upload all your documents on LSAC, you just have to choose your law school and apply. LSAT will do the rest for you. Pay the application fees and just apply. But preparing the documents, transcripts, one thing. Letters of recommendation, I was very sure on who are the people I want my letters of recommendation from, because though they saw me grow. I mean, I started like this little fresher in their company. Like in CompuAge, the chairman and managing director was one of my recommenders, and he was really happy and glad to do that, and he just gave me a really really like flying colors recommendation, and I didn't know those things about myself that he wrote for me. So it was, you need to choose your people really wisely.
Mm.
So the recommenders, they were really lovely, they were amazing, and they were very willing to write me a letter and give it to me whenever I want. The SOP is something that I worked on for quite a few, I think, weeks, probably a couple of weeks at least, because you can't just like sit one morning and have coffee
Mm.
and just write an recipe. You have to revisit
Yeah.
it. You just don't have to revisit it yourself. I showed my SOP to, I don't know, all the people that matter to me in my life. And all of them, like, there was a point in time where my SOP had more edits than the actual original
My
content that I
goodness.
had written in it. And I had to incorporate all of those things. And when you speak to people, you realize that sometimes things you don't know things about yourself, but they know better because they've seen you, they've worked with
Yes.
you. So I would really recommend that have your SOP checked from a lot of people, get
Mm.
their perspective. It'll open your eyes to things that you thought weren't there. So that's it. I started in August 25, in the fall of 25, my LLM. I started prepping for it in May 24. So you can see it. I took my sweet
Yes.
time. It's not like I could have done it later, but then I did not want to rush into it. Somebody had advised me that don't sit on it, just start right away. Even if it's next August, you need to start right away. So I think I
Well,
started way
your
early.
sweet time landed you in Berkeley, so it's all worth it.
Yeah.
Your specialization is in business law. Could you explain the structure of the LLM program and the kind of subjects you studied?
So I was very sure that I want to specialize in business law, given the CS background and the professional
Mm.
experience that I had. People usually come to Berkeley for tech law. It's really
Okay.
good for tech law as well. The kind of professors, the kind of courses that are available in tech law. I mean, I think this is the best place for tech as well, in addition to
Mm.
business. So but since I was sure of business law, I knew the kind of classes that I wanted. Like I said, I wanted to learn how startups work, like how it starts from an idea and how does it reach the stage of IPOs. So that's what I was, because I was very sure it was easier for me to select my classes. So in Berkeley, I am at least in Berkeley Law. I'm not sure of the other law schools how the coursework works, but we can choose our own classes. So we have like this whole it's like paradise for somebody who's really interested in studying, because you have all these classes and you can choose whatever you want from it. And it's like you see a lot of candies in front of you and then choose your favorite candies.
Yes.
So it was a really good it I was not expecting that. Like in India, like we just signed up for a degree and we were given a timetable on the
Yes.
first day of our classes. Like this is
Yes.
your timetable, you have to come. I was making my own timetable for both the semesters here. I was choosing that, do I want to have an 8 a.m. class or do I want to have a 9 p.m. A 7 p.m. class that gets over at
Oh.
9 p.m. So the freedom that I had in choosing my own timetable, in deciding my own schedule, along with the choice of having my preferred classes. I think
Mm.
that's one of the best things at Berkeley Law. So I chose classes that were related to CS, like you said, venture funds, startups, IPOs,
Yeah.
business associations, which is like business organizations in India. They teach you how what are the kinds of organizations, how they operate, like an overview of that. And then securities regulations was a really interesting class because
Mm.
I know the SEBI rules and regulations, the listing regulations, what SEBI tells us to do in India, but here there's SEC, the
Yes.
counterpart of SEBI in the US. So how do you go for an IPO? What are the documents required? So these kind of things they touched home for me because in CS we used to learn about what filings are required or who is an independent director. So
Mm.
I mean, it was really relatable for me. At the same time, it was very new for me as well. So it was a really good experience that way.
Yeah, in fact, my next question was this only, since you mentioned like the subjects like securities regulation, venture funds, M&A, complex transactions sound highly practical and industry oriented. And I was going to ask you that how different is the teaching methodology in the US compared to India?
It's more analytical and more application based
Mm.
as compared to the learning that takes place in the law schools in India. Because for me, I was working full time when I was in the law school in India. So
Mm.
I used to be in a rush that I have to reach office, I have to do this, I have to do that. So
Mm.
I just used to
Yeah.
go to class, I used to attend and sometimes listen, sometimes not focus. Sometimes you get distracted sitting in class, but you can't do that here in the
Yeah.
law schools here because
Yeah.
when you enter your class, you're supposed to prepare for that class. So if my class
Mm.
is of like an hour, I'm supposed to do readings of 2 hours before entering the class so that I understand what the professor is trying to say. The professor is not going to waste time in giving us basic details or no, this
Mm.
is A, this is B, this is C. We need to know what is ABC. He's going to tell us what are ABC coming together and doing. So you see the
Mm.
difference here. I mean, it's you need to do your homework, you need to do your readings. When I say homework, not like the school homework, but when
Yes,
you
yes.
like your readings, you do your readings before you enter your class, and that's when you will understand the application of what you just read. So
Mm.
it's really application based, and your analysis has to be really strong. The skills that you build in these classes are like exemplary in that way.
Right. And you mentioned the timetable and subjects. What is the examination and assessment pattern at Berkeley Law? Is it more recent research oriented, classroom participation based, or exam centric?
It's a mix of everything. I think it depends on what kind of classes you are taking. So in one or two classes that I took, I just had to write a paper on it. So that was
Okay.
a research paper-based examination. One of the classes, I think most of my exams were open book. As a person from India who had to,
Yes,
learn all the
crammed.
sections, all the laws, and just scram everything in my head and then write and write and write in the exam and fill papers. When I came here, I'm like, open book? What? Is that it? Is this how I'm gonna? I mean, I was so happy. I mean, in my first semester, I'm not gonna lie, I underestimated this open book examination system because I was like, huh, I have learned such big fat books and I've given exams. So open book is like a piece of cake for me. But I was wrong because even though the examination is open book, there's probably not much in the book that can help you to write your answer because it's application
Oh,
based. Book is just going to give you probably an example or like a
oh.
case law or just like the law probably like this is what you need to do. But when in an exam they give you a situation and then you have to
Mm.
apply that. So, to what extent is that book going to help you? And that I realized in my first semester. And then I worked harder in my second semester and I got like really good grades in my second semester. So, the examination, it really depends on what kind of course it is. But most of them are open book. There were some closed book exams, which was they were a little similar to how we gave exams in India because we had to learn the law and just remember everything. But then
Okay.
again, when I was writing the exam, it was different. But the only difference in open book and closed book is you have the book to refer to the law, and in closed book, you need to know the law.
Not a
Both
lot.
the exams are application based. So you need to analyze. I think there's a lot of emphasis on analysis over here in the answers. If your
Mm.
analysis is not right, that means you don't know the concept. That means you are not fit to
Mm.
practice law. Because if you get a client who's asking you, what do I do here? How are you going to apply? How are you going to analyze
Mm.
that situation? This is a particular skill set that I think, at least when I was in law school in India, this was lacking. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not sure of how it is right now for students, but when I could feel the difference. Like even now, what I studied in my first semester, I remember that very well. You give me a situation, I'm going to give you a solution to that. But
Mm.
if this was in India, like if I'm in my third year in law school, and if you ask me from a situation for something that I studied in my first year, I might not have been able to recollect it. So the learning, you won't realize at that time, but after a few months, you will realize that, oh, it's a really good technique of learning.
Right. And, many Indian students dream of studying in the US, but are concerned about affordability. Could you give us a
Yeah.
realistic idea about the tuition fees, accommodation, and living expenses involved in pursuing an LLM at the Berkeley?
So we need to be really practical before we decide on this. I get a lot of calls from prospective students who've been admitted to different universities in the US for this question, mainly because of this question that, is this a wise decision? And I think it's a very subjective thing. It depends from person to person and family to family. It is expensive. I mean, just the tuition and fee is going to cross $80,000. And this is just your tuition. And there's going to be a cost for books, for your living expenses, for food.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, if you come to the US for a degree, you're not just going to sit inside your rented apartment and just, spend your weekend. You might want to go somewhere. Everything has a cost here. You can't, there's nothing that you can just like, experience. You need to be really practical before you budget for yourself. And you need to be practical for the reasons that you are pursuing it. If your reasons are strong enough to face whatever consequences that can arise later, so I mean that's the balance that you have to check because you really need to be honest to yourself and to your family. I've had people speak to me who were I loved the confidence, but they were lacking practicality because they were so confident. Oh no, we'll work something out. Yes, you may, but you need to be aware of the job market. You need to be
Yeah.
aware of what kind of work that you want to do. So, and I've seen people come here start their program and by the end of the second semester they're so disappointed because of the job market. It is competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's competitive everywhere. I don't see a country where law firms are just offering offer letters to people like come work
Yeah.
for us. It's really competitive. Even in India, when I was
Yeah.
seeing people around me, it was really difficult for putting your foot into the door. And no matter what experience you have when you come to a new place, you have to start from scratch, right? You need to understand how things work here. So these are the things that you need to
Mm.
consider. I've had people say that, oh no, I'm just going to work at a mid-level associate position. No, you might have to start as a first year because you need to start from scratch to know how offices work here, how transactions take place here. So
Mm.
you need to have a realistic picture about it. It is expensive and you need to balance your reasons against the consequences. I think that's the best thing that I still advise to people. Like just don't have a fancy pink rosy picture in your mind. It is difficult, but you need to have that resilience that you need to face a lot of rejections. I mean, who doesn't face rejection? I
Yeah.
must have faced so many rejections. So even when I was in India, I just used to randomly apply, go for interviews, and then get rejected, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, let's move on. You need to build a thick skin. But at the same time, when it comes to pursuing a master's abroad, you need to prepare your family for that
Yeah.
because they should not have any unrealistic expectations from you. They should not be thinking that, oh, after 10 months, my son or my daughter is going to graduate and then he or she is going to work in like some big law firm over here. No, they need to be made aware of how the situation is, and only then, because you need your family support in times like these. When you are facing rejection, you need somebody to be there for you, to push you, to motivate you. So it's not just cost that is involved when you move out. There are a lot of other factors, and once you move here, that's when you realize the importance of those things.
Right. So, ma'am, for law students aspiring to build an international corporate career, a corporate law career, what skills should they start developing during law school itself?
I think communication is one of the topmost important skills that I can think of. I think you need to start from basics like communication, drafting, and one of the subjects that are that's skill based is contracts. I think
Hmm.
contracts is something um that's everywhere. Like any kind of transaction that takes place in the company or even in real life, or even when you're just trying to make a small deal personally. So I think contracts is something I wouldn't call contracts a subject, I would call it a skill. So I think drafting, communication, and contracts is something that you need to pay attention to. Right? You need to.
Hmm.
I myself was like really scared of drafting when I started off in my CS exams. I used to hate it, and then there came a time where I used to look forward to drafting because I used to after I used to finish writing my piece, I used to just stare at it and be like, oh wow, I wrote such a nice thing. And I mean the kind of satisfaction that it gave me, and it just with practice, I think that's when I got easy with drafting. So I think these three things are really important.
Right. And did you explore, I mean, since we were talking about, expenses, did you explore scholarships, financial aid, or student assistantship while applying? What advice would you give to students worried about funding their LLM? Are the students allowed to work while they study there?
So every university has a scholarship program. Unfortunately, I did not qualify for the Berkeley scholarship, but I had applied in some universities around it. I mean, I was very sure I want to study in the Bay Area, so I had applied to universities in the Bay Area, and there were like a couple of universities that gave out a really good scholarship sponsorship to me for my LLM, but it was a choice that I had to make. I had to
Hmm.
decide for myself that if I'm going all the way to California, do I want to do my LLM from a university like Berkeley, or do I want to worry about the cost difference that is going to arise because of choosing another university? The other universities were not bad or any such thing, but it's just comparison. Like when you make a comparison, you think to yourself, what's better? So yes, there are scholarships. I did apply. I mean, from the LSAT portal that I was telling you about, I think there are
Okay.
options on the portal itself to apply for scholarships. So I did that, and I did receive two of them. But again, I had to make a decision for myself what worked for me. But if cost is a very big factor for students, I think they should choose their universities based on the scholarship that they are being granted or the sponsorship that they're being granted by the university. When it comes to working on campus, there are a lot of restrictions for students who work in the US. There are some on-campus opportunities. So
Hmm.
I've had classmates work in the dining hall or in the library, in the university libraries. So there are such opportunities, but I wouldn't depend on them for my major expenses if
Hmm.
I was in their place. So you need to prepare accordingly.
Right. And since we know that you're a candidate for the California bar examination, could you explain the process for an Indian lawyer to become eligible for the California bar?
There are two ways when you, as a foreign student or a foreign attorney. So one way is to apply as a student, like you've just completed your LL.B in your jurisdiction, and then you apply
Okay.
as a foreign graduated law student to the California bar. So in the US,
Okay.
every state has its own laws for
Yeah.
appearing for the bar exam. Every state has its own bar exam, and they have their own rules and regulations on who
Mm.
can apply and who cannot apply. So for California specifically, I was sure I want to give California bar exam, so I did not research on the other bars. But for this place, you either apply as a student. In that case, you need to send your transcripts to the State Bar of California. And then it's very similar to the law school application process, like, but no
Okay.
SOP, no letters of recommendation, just transcripts, basically proving that you've completed law school in your home
Yeah.
country. The second choice of path is applying as a foreign attorney. Since I had
Mm.
my license in India, my advocate license in India, I applied as a foreign attorney. And in that case, I did not have to send all my transcripts because I was really traumatized with my transcript experience in the law school
Yeah.
application. I was like, I am not doing that again. So I went as a foreign attorney applicant, and all I had to do was go to my state bar. I was enrolled in Bar Council of Maharashtra and Goa. So I had to go there. I had to go to the bar office and then I had to apply for a certificate of good standing. So that was my eligibility certificate. Instead, in that was replacing the transcripts in the case of a student. So I just had to apply as a foreign attorney with a certificate of good standing to be eligible to
Right.
appear for the bar exam.
And what are the different stages involved in the California bar enrollment process? Approximately, how much does the entire process cost? How are you preparing for it?
There's a cost to everything, like I said. So I think you should have a lump sum of at least $5,000 when you have to go for the CalBar, because the process starts with registering on the portal, like how
Hmm.
any other process does. Then you need to apply for your moral character. This was something really new to
Okay.
me because I wasn't aware as an Indian person, Indian student. So moral character process is like it goes on for months, at least 4 to 8 months. And in that case, you need to give all kinds of references, your professional references, your other references, and there's a whole background check that is done on your profile. So they're gonna take your fingerprints, they're gonna see your eyes, and they're
Hmm.
gonna scan your eyes, and they're gonna do everything. And your records are going to be checked on every possible platform that there is. So that
Hmm.
takes time. So moral character is one big thing. It is also, I think $1,000 or something around that, the whole application process. Then there is not just the bar exam, there is another professional responsibility exam called the MPRE that you are supposed to give to
Okay.
be eligible to practice law in California. That exam happens three times in a year. So I
Okay.
recently gave that in the month of March, this March. And it's basically based on ethics and professional responsibility, what can and cannot a lawyer do
Okay.
while working. Sounds sounds easy, but again, you need to get into it. You need to understand. You really need to apply the law. It's all about application. Even the CalBar, the subjects that I have, it's all about analyzing and applying the laws and the rules
Hmm.
that I'm studying. So then the last part comes for your bar prep. You would need a bar prep course. You cannot think that because in India I gave the bar exam, the AIB, I gave it by myself and I
Yes.
passed. But here you need to have some bar review course or some bar prep course, and I think all of them start
Hmm.
after $2,000. So you need to keep that cost in mind. And again, the examination fee for the Cal Bar is also around 1,500 to 2,000
Oh.
if you want to give. So if you want to give your exam on laptop, you don't want to handwrite it. So there are extra
Hmm.
charges to use your laptop. So there are charges for everything that you can think of, and you need to keep that in mind if you really want to do this or no, and what use is it going to be for you even after you pass. So a lot of things to consider in that case.
Yes, ma'am. And lastly, what kind of job opportunities become available after completing an LLM and clearing the California bar? Why I'm asking is because what are the practical realities international students should know about the US job market?
So I'd like to correct your statement. Nothing is available. You need to
Yes.
work hard for it. I mean, just kidding. You
Yeah.
really need to work
Yeah.
hard for it. And when it comes to what kinds of opportunities there are, I mean, the sky is the limit, right? I mean, corporate law, when you speak to a layperson, you say corporate law, that person is just gonna think like this, corporate law, okay. But
Um,
no, I mean, There are so many things in corporate law. Just if you see a legal department in a company, even in India, there's a person
Mm.
for privacy, there's a person for IP, there's a person for basic contract, there's a person for litigation, there's a person for compliance, there's a person for regulatory compliance, there's a person for internal audit compliance. These are all corporate laws. So
Mm.
similarly over here, like when I worked in India, I worked in everything, like I said, in securities, in contracts, and board governance, and shareholder processes, AGMs, board meetings, everything.
Mm.
But when I want to work here and I want to search for opportunities or speak to people, I have an option of speaking to all these kinds of people because things are divided very, very well here. Like if you are an M&A lawyer, you are an M&A lawyer. If you're a securities lawyer,
Mm.
you are a securities lawyer. Because in India, we tend to do a
Mm.
lot of everything.
Lot. Yes.
People specialize a lot. There's a lot of specialization here. And I think as a fresher, as a first year associate, you just need to start somewhere. Even if a person like me starts in litigation, it's going to be okay because I need to get started. Once I get started, I
Mm.
get to speak to the other people who are working in the firm or in the company, depending on where I'm working. And that's when I can build on the practical skills that I can watch them work, I can learn from them, I can see what they're doing. So I think there are a lot of options for you to decide on. But again,
Mm.
those options are not available. That's a different thing. But you can choose
Yeah.
a lot of there are a lot of paths over here that you can choose from, is what I'm saying. So it sounds really nice and it sounds really exciting, and it is. I'm not saying it's not exciting, but you need to be resilient. Like I said earlier, when we were talking about the costs and the on-campus opportunities and other things, so I'm just going to touch base on that one more time, that we need to be really realistic on the market here. The markets are not good anywhere. The markets are competitive. People are
Yeah.
competitive. People are scaling themselves like there's no tomorrow. I mean,
Yes.
the kinds of ideas that people, even I'm not talking about founders or the startup people, I'm talking about lawyers. Even lawyers are building today. In this time, I see all the connections that I have on LinkedIn. I see lawyers
Mm.
are building softwares and tools, and they're making solutions for problems that lawyers are facing. Us
Yes.
lawyers have created our own industry and we're like, we'll have our own startups. I mean, go lawyers. So, there's just no limit to anything. And unless and until you keep yourself up to date with that, you keep yourself informed enough to at least hold a conversation with somebody. So I
Mm.
think those things are just going to add up to your personality, and that's just you need to prove yourself to people. And I think the last most important thing that I was not doing at all in India was networking. Networking is
Okay.
like it's like it's going to save your day. It's like the holy grail right now in the US. And because in India we don't reach out to random people and we ask them, would you
Yes.
go for coffee with me? I mean, it would be really weird
Yeah.
for me. I'm a very outgoing person, but even for a person like me, I wouldn't reach out to a random manager on LinkedIn and be like, oh, would you like to have coffee with me? It's going to be weird for me. It's going to be weird for that
For
person
the
as
other
well,
person.
because
Yeah.
we don't do that in India. And I just feel like we should do that in India as well. We should introduce,
Mm.
I mean, I'm sure people do that, but there has to be some widespread networking classes right in law school so that students can learn how to put themselves out there and just go and
Yeah.
say hi and then just let the conversation flow. Because unless and until you network, unless and until somebody knows you in a company or in a firm,
Mm.
your chances of landing a job are just going to drop down to next to zero. You need to know people. They need to know you. More than that, they need to know you and they need to speak to you and understand that, oh, this person is capable of doing something. And I think even the process of hiring a person over here is way different as compared to India. Because in India, when I used to interview for jobs, I was asked like so many technical questions. I was asked
Mm.
the law. I was asked technical questions, like very minute technicality. I was asked in an interview, and when I see this trend here, they don't ask you anything technical. They just gonna ask you like, They just want to know what kind of a person you are. Are
Oh,
they going to like working with you? Are you going to be a good fit with the personalities in the team? Doesn't mean that you're a bad person or you're not workable with. I mean, it just
mm,
they just want to check your compatibility with the team's compatibility. The more personality based, character based questions like what do I like to do in my free time? What do I think about this?
oh,
What's one of the challenges I face? So I cannot just answer like, oh, this one time I missed the deadline, so I did this. No, I need to
um,
give a broader answer to that. I mean, I just can't give like a small, teeny tiny example on that. Things are very different with us when it comes to job markets. It's competitive. The application process is way different. You need to learn how to network. I am still learning how to network. There are times where I get awkward. I'm like, what do I say? But I mean, you learn on the ground, right? So I think there has to be a very realistic. I mean, I just keep saying the same thing again and again. You need to have a very realistic expectation, a realistic picture of what is
mm,
going on. And if, as a student, if anybody is thinking of pursuing their master's anywhere in the world, you cannot decide without talking to people. You need to talk to
yes.
people, get to know their thoughts on it, and you will be surprised on how helpful people are. They really will give you a very honest background or very honest feedback on things. And you should learn from that and then decide.
Well, ma'am, thank you so much for sharing such practical and insightful guidance with us today. Your journey from Indian corporate legal practice and company secretarial work to studying business law at Berkeley and preparing for the California bar is truly inspiring for law students and young professionals who aspire to build global legal careers. Uh, what should I say? I mean, your insights on the LLM application process, life in the US, international qualification pathways will undoubtedly help many students make more informed decisions about their future. On behalf of everyone at DSNL, I thank you once again for joining us today, and we wish you the very best for your journey ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely speaking to you. And if there's anything else that I can ever help with, and if just I'm just be very open to reach out to me, and I'm happy to help. It was really good speaking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much
much,
for having
ma'am.